What's going on? I just watched the movie Blood Red Sky on Netflix. Um, it said it was trending number one on Netflix today, so I gave it a go. I love vampire movies. So, how do I start? Pretty much, this takes place. A mother and her young child are getting on a plane. Right away, the mother feels the need to always kind of update her medication um, in the restroom or in general. She has to use a syringe and kind of like inject some kind of medication, um, which we don't find out till later, but it's really, and this is spoiler review by the way, it's used to keep her from becoming kind of a mindless or I guess more predatorial kind of vampire. Um, so it kind of does a thing where it takes place in the future of them being, or in the present of them being on the plane, and then they do flashbacks of the origin of how she actually became a vampire. And they were driving, her and her husband at the time were driving through a forest. It looks like somewhere in northern Europe, somewhere, I'm not sure where. Um, and then, so they end up getting, their car breaks down. And so they're looking for a way to someone to get help. So the husband goes out first. Then after some time, he never comes back. So the wife goes to go follow him. She has, mind you, she has her young baby at the time. So she's going to chase him, following his footsteps. And meanwhile, this is all happening on the plane, by the way. She's having a flashback on the plane. And so she's on the plane and she's now realizing that she's kind of remembering just being on the plane. So what ends up happening is hijackers take over the plane. They're terrorists. They have a terrorist plot in order, in a plan to do this. They're going to take the plane and go have it straight, enact a terrorist plot, and they're going to jump off the plane and let the thing do what it's supposed to do. So to make an example, they actually shoot the mom because she got up to chase her son, who had kind of like strayed off into the aisle for whatever reason. He just ran off in the aisle. So they shoot her. The boy thinks her mom's dead. She comes back to life, obviously because she's a vampire, so she has quick healing. The thing is that in order for her to continue to heal, she needs to feed. So she goes down into the car, like the cargo area where they have all the animals, and she ends up just feeding on like a chihuahua or something, and then that just gets her right back to go, right back and healthy. So there's a kind of a struggle where eventually she ends up, she kills one of the terrorist people that came down to go check, but then everyone gets turned on to the fact, oh shit, that guy's dead in the cargo pit. There's some things that go on between there, but then what ends up happening is they end up finding out she's a vampire because she publicly or kind of visibly attacks one of their men, and after he attacks one of the men. So there's one of these terrorist people who's very bloodthirsty right from the get-go. It's actually the same guy who shot her. This man sees and recognizes that she's a vampire. I don't know if he just knew or watched a lot of movies, but he knew. So he pretty much was like, okay, I'm gonna go kill her. So he sharpens up a wooden stake and like gets his flashlight ready, and he actually disarms and disorientates the vampire mother. I'm forgetting her name right now. I think it's Algia or something. Alcia. Forgive me, I'm forgetting the name. I just watched it. And then so he takes blood from her with a syringe that was actually from her med kit, I believe, that she was using to medicate herself. He then goes down into the cockpit because he was shot by her, mortally wounded, we're assuming, because he knew that he was hurt. So he went into a car that was bulletproof. She tried to shoot him. She couldn't get into the car, which was a pretty tense scene. She then, he injects himself with the thing, starts going in a vampire transformation. But then she has a brilliant idea to put whiskey into the hole of the car, lights it on fire. He starts cooking within, like just like a little beautiful little scene where the guy's just cooking alive. But then automatic sensors go off on the plane that said there's a fire in the hole. There's something that extinguishes it, like a fire extinguisher. So he's put out the terrorist people to go check on the guy that's in the car. They open it. He's already transformed. He starts going on a frenzy. He starts biting everybody. 2 or 3 guys get transformed right then and there. And then after that, they lock him down there in the hole because they know if these people get out, they're just going to terrorize the whole plane. Everyone's going to turn into vampires. So they hold him back for a while. Then one of these guys who actually got injured in the middle of the commotion opens up the door. They all get out again. All the vampires get out. They turn everyone on the plane into vampires, excluding the people that are in the cockpit, which is the mom vampire, her son, and then the guy who just happened to know how to like kind of fly the plane somewhat. And one of the terrorists that actually they used him to kind of fly the plane. So they end up having this crazy intense scene where the kid gets away from his mom despite his mom's judgment to tell him not to do this, and he goes down into the vampire infested area with nothing but a flashlight to detonate or to place a bomb so that he could hand detonate it and explode the plane once they land. So he actually makes it there pretty. He gets to where he's supposed to go, but then the main vampire who had kind of been feeding this whole time was the strongest, and he was like kind of the leader of the rest of the vampires at this point. So he told everyone to move away because he had a personal vendetta against his kid and her mom. So he went for the kid, but then the mom ended up saying, okay, I'm going to go for him. She left the cockpit, went straight for him. They had this crazy battle, which she lost. She was overpowered by him, and she was having her neck actually eaten by him. And the son actually has a cool idea, a very neat idea, and he just clicks the little detonator, or one of the I don't know what he clicked, but something just blew off the hatch of the door. And so then he went kind of like, he didn't go flying out right away, but then the mom pushed him out, and then he was out. But it didn't end there. He still kept crawling back. So they had to turn, the guy in the cockpit had to turn off autopilot and turn the plane in order for her to get burned alive, him to get burned alive. And he did. And it was actually, the CGI was really good on that scene. But yeah, and then they land the plane. And then there was this kind of funky scene where they thought the guy in the cockpit was a terrorist because of that video. He recorded a video kind of incriminating himself, not by choice, but by the terrorists. And so they take him as the criminal. He's trying to tell him that there's vampires on board. Night comes, because it was daytime when they landed. Night comes, and now the army starts going in through the plane. They're all getting shot up or getting killed by the vampires, quickly. And but then the boy escapes from being held by the authorities when they landed. And that's how the movie started, by the way. He fell out of the plane, the boy did, and they took him away, and then anyways. So he gets away from them, goes straight back to the plane, and then guess who falls out of the plane? His mother. But at this point, she looks fully transformed into a zombie. I mean, into a vampire, rather. Her face has kind of become like, her bone structure has kind of deformed into like more of a classic Nosferatu kind of look. And her eyes look completely of that of a feral animal, and she acted as such as well. She didn't recognize her son, went straight for him, and the son just in a very mature moment just hit the button that was initially supposed to detonate everything, and it blew everything up, including his mom. He actually got away. The guy that was in the cockpit, who they thought was a terrorist, came back for the boy. And they realized he wasn't bad at this point. It was a little corny, but he went straight up to the boy. The boy picked him up. And, I guess they just kind of had I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be his adopted son now or going to look after him. But, So that was Blood Red Sky. Let me make sure that's the title of it. Yeah, Blood Red Sky. And I give it about, some moments were a little hard to believe. It had to suspend belief, but I would say 8.4. Pretty good. I did enjoy it. Kept me entertained. Reminded me of 30 Days a Night a little bit, which was one of my favorite vampire movies of all time.